Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 4 of the Guitar Guts podcast with me, Mark Murray. Today, my guest is the great Josh Dalviken from England. We talk about how he got his start on the guitar, all his gear that he's using right now. He's got a bunch of really cool guitars. We talked about Zelda. This guy's a Zelda freak. Metallica. He's loved Metallica forever. We go deep into working out, health, a bunch of cool stuff. Remember, you can find this podcast every Wednesday here on YouTube or here on iTunes, depending if you're listening or watching. There's a platform for both. Or go over to GuitarGuts.com, and I have the links for everything, including links to all the stuff we talked about with the guests, so you can go find their social media and all that stuff. You can follow Josh at Josh Dalviken, Dalviken, on Instagram and on a bunch of social media platforms. He's actually got a new album called The Sword That Slays the Darkness. That's what it is. And it's really good. It's awesome metal, and that's actually what I'm going to be playing right now. So if you like what you're hearing, go check it out. It's on Spotify. He's got the album up. You can find all his links, like I said, at GuitarGuts.com and under the podcast for today. If you want to contact me, you can always contact me at GuitarGuts on Instagram, at GuitarGutsUSA over on Twitter, or you can email me, mark@guitarguts.com. All right, I want to take a moment also before we get into the podcast to tell you guys about my sponsor, Iron Age Guitar Accessories. They make a bunch of cool stuff. They make awesome guitar picks. You can actually see they make cool stone ones. There's one of them right there. It's got their logo on it. They make a lot of different kinds of picks, but the thing that I really love from them is their kill switches. If you go over to GuitarGuts.com, I got the link straight to their website. It's going to bring you to the kill switches, and enter the code GG-10. You're going to get 10% off the kill switches. So what is a kill switch? A kill switch is a little button that you install on the guitar. It's right here on this particular one I have, and this one is an LED model. So when you plug it in, it's got a matching LED. They make all different color LED lights so it matches your guitar, and you can get the bezel itself in black to match this hardware. You can get chrome, you can get gold. They have a bunch of different styles, and if you don't want the LED because it is battery powered, they make ones without LED, so they have all different color ones of those too. Really cool effect. As you press the button, it cuts out your guitar tone, so it just mutes it out and kind of creates rhythms. You can do all kinds of different cool, at the end of a solo, instead of a whammy bar, you can tap that a bunch of times. If you need to just cut your signal for a part, you can do it real quick just by holding it down. They look awesome. They make your tone, they look awesome. They kind of give you a different effect, which is really cool. And they're very affordable. It's not even expensive for one of these things. So go check them out. I recommend these guys, ironageaccessories.com. Now, let's get into the podcast with Josh. This was an awesome one. Welcome to the show. We got Josh Dalviken, guitarist out of England. Used to live in London his whole life. He was just telling me the story about Whitby and the home of Dracula. Amazing stuff, dude.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me on the show. Pleasure to meet you finally.
Yeah, I've been following your stuff for, I don't know if it's been a year or more, but I was actually even just listening to The Sword That Slays the Darkness. Is that what it's called?
It certainly is. I have a copy here. Shameless self-promotion.
Dude, it's on Spotify. That is a fantastic album.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You wrote it all, right? I'm guessing?
Yeah, everything that I could possibly do is me. I'm a bit of a control freak. So, everything apart from the drums. The drums are MIDI programmed, but they sound good. And I know Yari from Winter Sun, he did the same thing on the latest Winter Sun album. It's all programmed drums with Easy Drummer by Toontrack.
Dude, so they sound really good, the drums. I was listening to them. I was thinking that was probably the only thing, but I didn't know if you played drums too. So all the keyboard, do you play keyboard? Do you do synths? Was that MIDI also?
Yeah, I have a MIDI keyboard right behind the laptop there, so I break that out, play around with it. I write all the metal stuff first, all the guitar stuff, like the whole James Hetfield thing. I mean, it all starts with a riff, right? The riff is the foundation. The riff is the meat. So get a good riff going, try and build up off that riff. If it's a main riff, I'll try and lead into a verse, a chorus, all that sort of stuff. As I'm writing, I tend to have the drums in my head. I kind of know what I want the drums to do at any given moment in any given riff. Build upon all that, layer over the keyboards afterwards. Yeah, when I have like a scratch track of the guitars, the drums, and the bass, I'll lay over the keyboards and see what I can add with that.
Yeah, one of my buddies came in while I was listening to it, and he's like, I'm like, I'm about to have this guy on the podcast right now, and he's like, what? He's like, this sounds awesome. We cranked it up a little bit, and I think it might have been Fearless. Is that the one where you do screaming on it?
Yeah, that is pretty much all screaming. That song, yeah.
Dude, that song is fire. The
Oh,
whole
thank
album, your singing is really good. Your diverse different styles in a lot of different songs. I mean, I've heard it before, but then today I was really listening to it closer, and really good stuff.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because one of my aims with it was to not have it be a repetitive, kind of easy to pigeonhole album. You know, I didn't want people to listen to it and think, oh, it's thrash metal. Oh, it's black metal. Oh, it's melodic death metal. You know, I wanted it to just be good songs. I've never been a genre guy. I just write what I consider to be good songs, regardless. I mean, you know, the whole thing. I mean, the first track is completely orchestral, and then it goes into the kind of the thrashy thing with Death to Degeneracy, and then we have White Dawn, which is a bit more of a folk-inspired kind of black metal kind of thing with some groove in there as well in the verse. Yeah, it just goes on like that, and then, you know, to finish it off, we have the 18-minute long instrumental. So yeah, it goes everywhere.
Are you a Dream Theater fan?
Actually, I'm not. Funnily enough.
That I was going to say that the big long instrumental track at the end, that's got such a Dream Theater feel to it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I don't dislike them. I've just never really heard much of them. You know, I think I have one of their albums in, what is it? Metropolis Part 2? Is that one of their albums?
My favorite one of theirs.
Okay, yeah, I have that. That's the only thing I've heard of theirs. I know the drummer played on one of the Avenged Sevenfold albums, Nightmare. That's about the extent of my knowledge of Dream Theater, though. The whole.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, the whole kind of extended epic thing comes more from soundtracks. Just as much as I listen to metal, I listen to the kind of epic fantasy soundtracks. You know, Lord of the Rings, Legend of Zelda. You know, a bunch of other kind of epic video games. You know, and they for the Zelda music, they have this concert tour, the Symphony of the Goddesses, and they actually get the whole full 100-piece orchestra to play. They kind of create these movements made up of all the different music from the soundtracks. You know, some of them are super extended, you know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So I've been to 3 of those concerts, and that was the first kind of, you know, I was always into the Metallica instrumentals, obviously. You know, but then they're not super long. You know, maybe 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Not long enough for you.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more places I want to go with my kind of instrumental stuff. So after seeing the Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses stuff, I was like, wow, you know, they're doing this for like 15, 20 minutes, and it's still interesting. You know, I'm still excited about what they're going to do next. It's not boring. They reintroduce the themes late in the song that they had in the beginning of the song, so you know it's the same piece, but it's in a different key, a different tempo. And I was just like, you know what, I want to try and do kind of a metalized version of that, get that vibe, get the kind of fantasy kind of woodland vibe in there with the metal stuff, and it just ended up being super long. I mean, after I wrote it, Nightwish came out with their new album, Endless Forms Most Beautiful, and they have a track on there that's like about 20 minutes. So I think next time round I have to beat 20 minutes, you know. It's like challenge accepted, Nightwish.
Yeah, seriously, I guess. So you call yourself the White Wolf. Where does that come from?
Oh, that came from a bunch of stuff. Back in the day, I mean, I had a few buddies. We were kind of, you know, all into fantasy kind of stuff like that. It just sprouted from there. I mean, I'm pretty pale. I always had like an affinity with the wolves and everything. And it just came about naturally, really, throughout the whole, you know how it is when you're kind of younger. You know, you kind of invent nicknames for each other, and some nicknames are cooler than others. You know, some are a bit more funny. Some are like, oh, you know, if you were like a hero, this would be your name, you know. And it was that kind of thing. Just came from, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, super white skin, affinity with wolves. I always just loved wolves for whatever reason. So it came about and it stuck.
Yeah, it's a good name, because when I look at your page, I always see that. I see that you use like the wolf emoji on when you sign, you know, write comments on people's stuff. Like,
yeah.
It's a good way to stick in people's heads. And it's fitting, like you said, it fits you.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I thought. I thought, it's cool to have like a little signature, because I mean, comments can get lost. I mean, so many comments on so many photos and videos, and they can all kind of blend into one. Especially if it's a comment where you don't have too much to say. If it's like a cool riff video, there's only so much you can say, right? I mean, it's not like you can write paragraphs. You just think, oh man, that is a super cool riff video. I'm gonna just give this guy some encouragement here. Sign off with the little wolf and the fist. Just to have some continuity with what I'm doing.
How long have you been playing guitar?
I've been playing guitar since I was 14. I'm 27 now.
Okay,
so I haven't been practicing
years.
as much as I should. I've never taken lessons, just completely self-taught. I find I was always kind of a rebel kid in school. I don't really like to be told what to do. That's probably the main reason I'm a solo artist rather than being in a band, is I like to have kind of complete control over what I'm doing. I know what I want. And I just thought, if I turned guitar into kind of, if I kind of institutionalized the guitar, I wouldn't enjoy it anymore, or I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I was as freedom of expression. When it's just you, guitar, you don't have anything in your mind, no theory, no lesson. You just, what comes out is very natural. So I thought, if I was to get a bit more academic with it, it would probably kind of ruin what the guitar is to me. That's not to say I don't try and improve, but I kind of do it off my own back. I like to be autonomous, self-taught.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to be self-motivating sometimes when you're trying to just teach yourself stuff and like sit down. Like there are times when you get addicted to learning stuff, but then if you force it, it's not, like you're saying, it's going to ruin it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it becomes work, right? Rather than something you enjoy. And if you have, work is cool. It's good to strive to progress. It's good to push yourself through those boundaries, push yourself to get better. But eventually you do get sick of it and you need to step back from it. I don't sit down and practice per se. If I'm writing and I might come up with a cool melody, like a lead thing, I can't play it. So I'll sit there for days and days and days and I'll practice it. Case in point, there's a sweep picking thing on Death to Degeneracy, kind of in the intro. I couldn't play that. I had it in my head and I'd written the Midi down I had like a harp instrument that I was kind of, it was posing as the guitar whilst I learnt it on the guitar. So I could hear it and I knew what the notes were going to be, but I just couldn't play it. So I sat there for about a week just playing this exact sweep picking thing until I could play it up to speed. Hit record, recorded it, never played it again. So, I'm sure I wouldn't be able to do it now. I'd need a couple of days to get back up to that level again. So with me, it's more a case of needs must. If I write something in my head that I can't play yet, I will practice my arse off until I can play it.
Yeah, so you're raising your own bar by writing music because you're writing it on Midi. Then you're like, oh shit, now I got to actually play this thing when you go to record it.
Yeah, well, it was actually it was kind of the other way around. I'd written it in my head. I just had this, it's got this kind of cool riff, and then it goes into this little break, and I knew I wanted it to be like a power chord break, with the drums just doing a double bass thing, and I wanted there to be like a sweep picking thing. It's just what I had in my head. I was just like, thing. So I figured out what I wanted the notes to be. I kind of sat there with the guitar and played it like half speed, over the backing track that I'd already done, the power chords. And then after I'd figured out the notes on the fretboard, I went into the Midi so I wouldn't forget them. So, so wrote them all down in the Midi, had the harp doing it so I could just concentrate on, playing this pattern, not having to think, oh, hang on, have I, accidentally kind of slipped and gone into the wrong position, or is that note not the same as it was? So the Midi was there as kind of a placeholder for the guitar. And actually in the finished song, there's the lead guitar, and there is still the harp Midi panned very slightly to the left, about 3 or 4 dB quieter than the guitar, just to add some texture, because I got so used to hearing it that when I took it out, it sounded a bit empty. So I thought, just keep that harp tonality in there, even if it's super buried in the mix. It just adds a little something to the part.
That's really cool. Going back to what made you start playing guitar?
Metallica.
What motivated you? It was Metallica.
Metallica, yeah. I when I was a kid, I used to be super into. Well, I used to do martial arts as a kid. It was kind of my first love in life. The first thing that I did was martial arts.
Which martial art did you practice?
It was a little bit of both. Way back when I started, it was karate and kickboxing. I got into Wing Chun Kung Fu a little bit later. Just learned some really cool techniques because it's totally different to karate. So naturally, I was really into stuff like Dragon Ball Z. As time went on, and I started kind of watching TV, Dragon Ball Z, and I saw World Championship Wrestling, WCW wrestling on TV, and I got super into that. My favorite wrestler was this guy called Sting. He had like the painted face, like Brandon Lee in The Crow, the kind of white face with the with the black. And he had this. He was just, for some reason, he was just my favorite wrestler back then. And eventually, after 1999, he started using Metallica "Seek and Destroy" live from Woodstock as his entrance theme. So I was like, "Oh, that music's cool. What is that?" And then I bought a CD. It was WCW The Music, and it had the two Sting themes. It had like the the spooky kind of orchestral one, and then afterwards it said Metallica "Seek and Destroy" live at Woodstock '99. So I was like, Metallica, interesting. I like Metallica. So it was "Seek and Destroy" was my first Metallica experience. I went out a couple of weeks afterwards to the local HMV, which was like the the record store we have over here. Went to the Metallica section, picked up what had the coolest cover, because I was about 8 or 9 years old. I didn't know anything about music, and nothing. I mean, this was the first time I'd actually gone out off my own back and bought a CD by a band. Didn't know what to look for. The internet wasn't really a thing, and if it was, I was 8 years old, so I didn't use it. So I couldn't kind of look up reviews and see what was the best. So the first one I picked up just off the back of its cover art was "Ride the Lightning." Even though I saw Kill 'Em All had "Seek and Destroy" on it, but I preferred the cover of "Ride the Lightning." So I thought, okay, I'll go for that one. So
in my head, I was trying to figure if you were going to go for "Ride the Lightning" or "Master of Puppets," because those to me are like, when you see those, especially as a kid, but the blue, the "Ride the Lightning," like that cover is just so badass.
Yeah, it was the most striking cover to me. I was always into the kind of darker stuff, even as a kid. I was never into like super bright colors. So like, seeing that kind of stormy blue with the lightning, it just looked so cool to me. So got home, played "Ride the Lightning," front to back. Oh, countless times. I was just sitting there 8 years old with my little Sony Walkman, headphones in, just listening to this album back to back constantly. Eventually, probably about a month or two afterwards, I went out and I actually bought Reload because, back then I didn't know the kind of new Metallica, old Metallica kind of thing. It was
probably their newest album at the time, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Actually, no, that might have been. Well, it's their newest studio album because they did Garage Inc. and then they did S&M. But I saw S&M was a live album. I saw Garage Inc. was all covers. So I thought, okay, I'll get this Reload one. It's like their new album. So, got that home, loved it. And there was no prejudice behind it back then. I didn't think, oh, this isn't thrash metal, man. I just liked the music. I liked the band. I liked James's voice. I liked the guitars. I liked the vibe. So it was just all good music to me. And to this day, it's one of my favorite albums of all time, not even just Metallica. It's one of my favorite albums, when I'm feeling nostalgic, if I want to listen to something a bit more groovy with and those albums are deep, man. The layering with the guitars, the production. Bob Rock just did an astounding job on those albums. Everyone talks about his work with the Black Album, and that was probably sonically the best album I've ever heard in my life. But Load and Reload, they have that vibe where it's raw, but it's got so much depth to it. That really caught me. And yeah, to this day, I mean, songs like Fixer, Unforgiven 2, I love. All that
Devil's
stuff.
Dance.
Yeah, Devil's Dance. I mean, that's just, I haven't heard another song like that. Just that evil, that ugly groove. And it's just, with the chugs and everything, it's just heavy, man. It's just so, as you would say, it's badass, it just has that vibe to it. They're very original albums. People don't like him as much, but I absolutely adore them.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I got into Metallica. I'm just a little older. I'm 31, and I got into them when I was like 10 years old or something when I first started playing. And I went and I got a couple of the older albums, and then I went out and I picked up Reload. I saw it was their newest one, and it was back when cassettes were a thing. So I got it on tape when it first came out because I didn't even have a CD player. Like I had to get like my little Walkman. I didn't have an actual CD player yet. So I went and bought the tape, and I was the same way. I thought it was awesome front to back. I had Load. I loved Load also. All these people hate those albums, but it's different. It's slower, it's bluesier, it's groovier. But man, there's some heavy stuff on those two albums. Like they're great.
Oh, and the lyrics, man. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, some of James's best lyrics are on those two albums. So deep, all the kind of metaphorical stuff. He draws you into another world with those lyrics. It's not just kind of spitting about death or whatever. It's, he's kind of crooning about his demons. It's just super deep and dark. Really draws you in, especially with the production. Like I said, it's just as far as I know, it's just the one guitar each side for the most part, rather than the triple track thing that they usually do. But then they have all these layers, the kind of atmospheric stuff, the weird kind of modulation stuff all over the album. It just has this really unique vibe. People kind of, they hear the big songs like Fuel and Memory Remains, and they just think, oh, it's mid-placed kind of bluesy metal. But they don't give it enough of a chance to hear the depth that those albums have to offer. Yeah. That's what I think, anyway.
I agree with you. So when you got into Metallica and everything, and how'd you get your first guitar?
Well, it was a while after that, actually. I was a punter for ages, just listening to the albums. After I got Reload, I got S&M, which kind of introduced me more to their catalog, as a live album should. So, and that was actually the first time I'd ever heard metal with orchestra. So that was the kind of foundation of what would become my sound. Just all through those years, just bought all the albums until I'd amassed the whole collection. This was just before Saint Anger had come out. So I remember being in a newsagent, like a magazine shop down in London, and I saw Guitar World August 2003 edition. James and Kirk on the front. James holding, the original Iron Cross, the Uncle Milty Les Paul, and Kirk was holding his Zemitis. I think it's a copy, actually. I think it came out that it was a copy guitar with the kind of mother of pearl inlays all over the body. So I saw them and I was like, oh, look at those guitars, look how cool they look. Bought the magazine, and it had this whole feature about, the new album about Saint Anger, which I didn't have yet. So it was kind of, an interview about that. Then at the end, they had tabs for how to play some of the riffs. I think they were Frantic, Saint Anger, and All Within My Hands, as far as I can recall. So I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I need to learn how to play this stuff. It hadn't really occurred to me before to pick up a guitar. I loved listening to the music. And then when I saw, okay, they're showing me in this magazine how to play the songs. Like, this is cool. I should get a guitar. So the following Christmas, so this was in about August or September. So a few months later, Christmas or Yuletide, as I call it, asked for a guitar, got a Yamaha kind of Super Strat thing with a tiny little Yamaha amp, which is my doorstop now. I still have it. Yeah, a little 10 watt, doorstop. So, and that had like a little overdrive button on it that kind of got you like the most, like the weakest overdrive you can imagine. But to me back then, that was heavy, that was heavy metal. I was like, oh, I can do this. So that led on to me. I was leaning over that Guitar World issue with the frantic riff and the Saint Anger riff. I believe the first riff I ever learned was the frantic riff. I as far as I can recall, that was the first riff I ever learned. So it kind of it all came from the Metallica thing. I just wanted to learn how to play Metallica.
Are you a fan of Saint Anger now?
Oh, I always have been. Yeah, I've always loved Saint Anger. Like we were speaking the other day about the jumping the studio thing. Back when I was 13, 14, actually even before that, I was probably about 12, 13. They were uploading these Jump in the Studio episodes to Metallica.com, and we just got a computer, so it was, I was really getting into it. And one of the only things I liked back then was Metallica. I was super into Nintendo and I was super into Metallica, so I was on Metallica.com watching these Jump in the Studio episodes like every week or however often they uploaded them. And again, to me back then, I've never been a genre kind of guy. There was no, I like thrash metal, and if it's any different, I won't like it. It was nothing like that. It was just, I was excited to hear the new Metallica. And when it came out, I loved it. It was so raw and heavy, and the aggression was there. People hate on the production. I love the production. It's so brutal. I mean, and in a good way, right? Because you hear kind of brutal sounding production now, and it's all about the loudness war thing. Everyone trying to be as loud as possible. But Saint Anger, it's punchy, it's raw. The guitar tones are so heavy. Even the drums, I like the drum sound. Yeah, I like the Saint Anger drum sound. I've always just looked at it as the same way that I look at any other album. I don't go into it with any kind of preperceived ideas of what I think it should be. I take it for what it is. If I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. So always been a Saint Anger fan.
So for all the haters out there who don't like Saint Anger, what would you say? What's the track on there? Like the sleeper track or the track that you say, like, go listen to this one and then tell me you don't like Saint Anger?
The first one that comes to mind is The Unnamed Feeling. That song it just has that depth to it. Like I was talking about Load and Reload, they have that certain depth and that darkness. Unnamed Feeling is one of those tracks, super underrated as far as I'm concerned. I also think the main riff to Purify is one of the best riffs I've ever heard. It's just simple, raw, aggressive, energetic. But yeah, The Unnamed Feeling, I would definitely say that. Check that out, and you couldn't possibly tell me that the album is totally bad. It even has a guitar solo in it, the one note solo as they call it, the kind of the cat's meow. He goes a dun 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 dun. Wow. That counts as a guitar solo, apparently.
I guess so. For that album, it does.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a guy on YouTube who covered the whole album and then gave it like good heavy tones for like standard Metallica tones from the 80s. And then he got some guy who can do Hetfield's voice to do all the vocals and did a full album cover. I've seen some of that. Yeah. Dude, it's pretty good. Like all the people who say the album sucks, go listen to that and then tell me like, I get the production issues, but that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, right. I mean, same thing with Injustice for All. I mean, so many people just rag on that album because of the production. Just get past it, man. Just listen to the music. Listen to it as a piece of art. Because that's what it is. I mean, we listen to metal because it's art. It's not a product. At least the good stuff isn't. Especially back then, stuff like Injustice for All. I mean, come on, it's this super progressive and aggressive album. They weren't doing it to sell. They were doing it because they wanted to write good songs. It's what separates metal from a lot of this modern music is, the kind of modern radio stuff. It's a product. It's not an art form. We like metal because it's an art form, right? It's artistic expression. It's not a product to sell. So, that's just what I would say to people who don't give albums a chance because of this little factor or that little factor. I've heard the drum sounds crap. Well, so You know, everything else is good. You know, oh, the production's crap. Well, the music's good. So, you know, the energy's good. So, you know, it's, you know, when you listen to like a lot of black metal, you know, they have this necro sound production, which, you know, they make it sound as bad as possible, but it works for the music. You know, in a lot of black metal circles, it's like if your production's too good, you're not true black metal. You know, and it's, you know, it's all about creating the vibe, creating the vision. You know.
I'm looking at your ESP back there.
Oh yeah.
What's your current guitar lineup? You've come a long way since the Yamaha.
Oh yeah. Even though I do have it, I think everyone still has their first guitar, don't they? Everyone who's a little bit sentimental, anyway. So yeah,
I have so many guitars. I got rid of my first one, and I really regret it. And I
Oh,
tell everybody you gotta keep your first guitar, but I was so stupid. I took it apart, and now I just don't even know what happened to it, to be honest.
Oh man, it's just in pieces all over the world.
It could be. I think I could have sworn it was in my parents' attic, and then when I moved, we took all my stuff out of there and never found it. So I still, part of me hopes that it's somewhere up there, like hidden in a weird box or something. But
Yeah.
who knows?
You know, maybe there's a little attic ghost that's just getting really good at the guitar, you know, hiding it from you. What was your first guitar then?
A black and white Squier Strat Bullet.
Oh, nice. Pretty good first guitar.
Yeah, not bad. It was a cool
Yeah.
little black and white Squier. I liked it.
Nice. Yeah, moving on to this ESP. This is an ESP Eclipse 1 CTM from 2009. The color is interesting because it's dark purple satin. It's not black. It looks black, but it's actually this kind of dark purple going on. Don't know if you can really see it in the light, but you can compare it to the black hardware, and you can see it's not black, right?
Wow.
This is a really interesting one, and I have a cool story about why I actually got this exact guitar. But this was based on one of James Hetfield's Les Paul Customs that he had from about late 2003. It's actually the guitar he plays in the Unnamed Feeling video. They don't show it much, but you can see he's got this funky kind of Les Paul Custom, which is basically exactly this guitar. ESP made a very limited number of these. It was never like an official James Hetfield model, anything like that. It was just inspired by that purple Les Paul Custom that he had. The reason I got this guitar was because my very first gig was Download Festival in 2004, and many viewers or listeners probably know that as the only Metallica show that Lars has ever missed. So they called on Joey Jordison, Dave Lombardo, and Fleming, Lars's drum tech at the time, to fill in on the drums. And because it was, the guys usually play a bunch of guitars throughout the set, changing guitars like every couple of songs. But I think because that set was just so makeshift and so kind of garage, they were just kind of sticking with one guitar. So the first guitar James Hetfield comes on stage with is his Gibson version of this. So it was the very first guitar I ever saw James Hetfield play with my own eyes. So I was like, okay, I need to get that guitar. And he played it for the majority of the set, apart from the usual kind of, where he busts out the Ken Lawrence for the clean stuff, like, Nothing Else Matters and Enter Sandman. He played his Gibson version of this for the entire set. So it was like a super sentimental guitar for me already. And a couple of years later, well, a few years later, because this is 2009, I was just browsing on, I think it was reverb.com or some other website. It might have been preloved.com or something like that. Just looking at the, ESP stuff. Back then, I still had my Yamaha. So I was seriously looking to upgrade at that point. I've been saving up for a while. I was just waiting for the right guitar to come along. And this came up. And I was like, oh, that's the guitar. I didn't even know they made them. But that's the guitar. This guy was selling it super cheap. He'd bought it from ESP Japan. And then he got into some kind of financial trouble and he had to sell off a bunch of his gear like straight after he got it. He had it for about 3 months at the time. And he was selling it for basically half price. I got it for less than $1,000. traveled up to Birmingham to get it, collected it off him, and just it was my workhorse and my baby ever since. It's completely stock. They only made them for a couple of years inside of Japan. I'm not sure. I know they're discontinued now. I'm not sure when they discontinued them, but I've never seen someone else with this guitar. A lot of people have the black ones and all that kind of. I've never ever seen someone else on Instagram or whatever on YouTube that have this dark purple satin version. So I love this thing. Apart from this, the next guitar I got was my Explorer that I play in most of my videos. That's another weird one. I've been told by the guy in the shop it's an Edwards, or it was an Edwards, like from the early 2000s or something. He said he got it in from a guy who was going to kind of basically completely do it up, which is what I ended up doing with it. So when I saw it, it was just this stripped back Explorer-shaped piece of mahogany, with a few kind of, I think it still had, some of the finish left and, the back plate and all, and that was about it. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. I've always loved Explorers, obviously, being a complete Hetfield fanboy. But I was never too keen on the Explorers that were out there. The kind of stock Gibson Explorers just didn't do anything for me. I've never really been into black guitars, so I didn't really just want a black Explorer. I just didn't really do it for me, especially not when you're considering that amount of money. It's a grand at least, right? So I didn't want to spend that kind of money with a guitar. I was like, it's okay, I wanted to spend that money on a guitar I would look at and think, oh, yes. So I got this guitar, got all this satin chrome hardware. My blueprint for it was kind of a blend between the original Grey Truckster and Hetfield's Nash Explorer. I think they call it the Nash Explorer, which is his Gibson style ESP that he plays in D tuning. I'm not sure if he still plays it these days. I think he kind of uses more of a, I think he uses that camo snake bite more for the D tune stuff these days. But on the World Magnetic Tour, he was playing that for Seek and Destroy. So kind of a blend of those two guitars.
Oh yeah,
was my
this one here, right?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
I'll show the camera too. Cool guitar. I've
Yeah,
never seen that one.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I saw that and I just thought, I know it's the Gibson kind of thing, but the fact that it was so aged and everything, it just really appealed to me. That mixed with the Truckster kind of vibe, I like those kind of aged guitars. So I was like, okay, I want this guitar to be a blend of those two. So got all the satin chrome hardware. I was already going off EMGs at the time because I had played, I know you two are a Lundgren Master Race member, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'd played the Lundgren M6 pickups in Sweden in a guitar shop. I think it was called Andreasen's. They had like this little home-built Les Paul kind of thing in the shop that had these Lundgren M6 pickups in. So I was over there once just milling about in this guitar shop. Picked up the guitar because I thought, why not? It's a cool-looking guitar. I'd never played Lundgren pickups before. Plugged it in. Oh, my God. I was blown away. It just opened up a whole world of tone. They had a few ESPs in there with EMGs, so I picked up one of I think it was like an EC1000 they had. Picked that up, plugged it straight into the same amp. It just sounded so thin and just flat, just cardboard sound. I was like, oh, these Lundgrens are just god tier pickups. I didn't realize pickups could make that much of a difference at that point. I knew people change their pickups all the time, but I'd never considered it myself because, I was playing the 81s, and back then, James Hetfield hadn't had the Het set yet. He was still using the 81s. Everyone was using the EMG 81 still. So I just, that was the industry standard. If it's good enough for Hetfield, it's good enough for me. But as soon as I played the Lundgrens, it just blew me away. So I knew, I had to, I wouldn't spend money on any other pickup apart from those Lundgrens. But, they became like the pickups to me. So, that was about a year before I had come across this Explorer project. So it was a no-brainer by that point. I got in contact with Johan, who's a top guy. And yeah, he sent me an M6 set, put him in. It was just the greatest sound I'd heard, the kind of the feeling of it as well. You play this, big Explorer, it feels like a weapon, it's like this big axe, and it sounds as huge and as punchy as that with the Lundgrens in. I was just in tonal Valhalla. So, yeah, that was my second kind of main good guitar. A little while after that, I came across, I wanted like an acoustic. I'd never had kind of a decent acoustic, so I got this ESP Ltd Teal 6N. Don't know if you can see.
I've never seen that before. Never seen that. That's a cool guitar.
Yeah, it's basically an acoustic Eclipse, an acoustic ESP Eclipse. Wonderful nylon string. So
rad.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I've always loved ESP. They have the feel of them, the build quality, everything. I just adore them. So I was looking at what they had in the way of acoustics, because I know they had the X-Tone stuff a while back, and they had the kind of semi-hollow things. And I was just on their website, and I'd seen that they'd recently brought out these TL6 guitars, which they look like an acoustic Eclipse, which to me is just insanely cool, because the Eclipse, it's just beautiful, right? To me, even more so than the Les Paul, they just have that sharper, more kind of modern classic look. So yeah, and they do those in steel string and nylon string versions. Got hold of that because I wanted, a good acoustic to record with. I'd already written all these acoustic parts in my head for my album. So I was, I didn't want to kind of skimp out and have these cool parts and then play them with like a crappy acoustic, so I thought, okay, I'm going to invest in a decent electroacoustic, so I can get a nice DI signal, because I'm pretty much a noob at the whole recording mixing thing. I didn't know the best way to mic up an acoustic guitar, didn't know the best way to EQ it or mix it or anything like that. So, recording DI, you're taking one variable out of the equation, the mic and the mic placement. So, yeah, I got hold of that. Got hold of, I've got an Aria Pro 2 bass. Again, it's just a good solid bass. It was dirt cheap. Does everything I need it to. Stays in tune, sounds good, looks pretty cool. It's like Snow White with chrome hardware, so it's got this whole Arctic vibe going on. I know Aria Pro 2 is a good brand. I mean, Cliff used them. So, and that's what I've got going on. Oh, and my most recent acquisition actually is I've got an ESP Ltd EC256 gold top. I got that for fun, really. It was it was less than 200 quid on eBay, and James Hetfield used to play one, the equivalent back then anyway. It was the EC400 AT he played, and I just used to think he looked so cool with it. It was this kind of gold top Eclipse. I guess they gave him one to try and boost their LTD sales a bit back in 2004 kind of era. If you look, there's a video on YouTube. I think it's Leper Messiah live in Lisboa 2004. He's playing it on that. I just think he looked really cool with it. So it kind of set off this little gold top, gassing in my mind. I was like, I want to get a nice gold top one day. And I saw that came up, ESP Ltd, cannot go wrong. Less than 200 quid. So I got that. I keep that. That's kind of my my messing around guitar. I use that to kind of change tunings and try out different string gauges and practice truss rod adjustments and things. Because as I said, I like to be quite self-sufficient with all this kind of stuff. I like to know what I'm doing with my gear. I don't want to have to rely on someone else to set up my guitar for me, for example. So I've kind of been teaching myself all how to set up a guitar. Did it all on that thing because I didn't want to risk, my made in Japan ESP or my Explorer or anything. Don't want to snap the neck on one of those.
Yeah, smart.
So yeah, that's my fun guitar that I'm just playing around with at the moment. At the moment, that one is tuned to C sharp, whereas usually I'm in E flat. Oh, and
I'm curious, is your album in E flat?
Yes, it is. Apart from two tracks, Under Blackened Wings and Until I Return to Your Side, they're both in C sharp.
Oh,
But they were
okay.
all played on my Explorer with the Lundgren pickups.
How did you record your guitar for the album? It's great guitar tone.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. I tried. Yeah, what I did was I recorded DI. I've got like a Steinberg UR12 interface, just a little basic one input thing. Recorded DI. I like to just record the DI because you don't have to kind of dedicate yourself to a tone then and there. You know, recording always takes more than one day. So, you know, I want the signal to be just the foundation there. Reamp them afterwards through my Dietzel VH4 Harley Benton cab, which I know people like to make fun of a little bit on Instagram. But they're great cabs. I mean, it's loaded with Celestion vintage 30s, solid, solid wood. I mean, what else do you want from a cab, right? For like a quarter of the price of a diesel cab.
And
So,
look at the sound of it. I mean, people
yeah.
talk shit about my amp too. I'm playing a $350 Marshall solid state head, and when
Oh, yeah.
people hear that, they're like, "Solid state, go get a real amp." And I'm like,
It
dude,
sounds good.
it sounds good. And so
Yeah.
many people tell me how good my tone is, and then I tell them what I'm using, and they're like, "What?"
Exactly. Listen with your ears, not your eyes. Come on. You know, I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I didn't actually use that cab for the album though, because at the time my room wasn't super treated. You know, I'm doing everything in my bedroom here. The most I have is a few acoustic panels on the wall, which I've put in since the album recording. So I borrowed a reamp box, reamped it through the Dietzel. I can't remember which impulse response I used. It was something free though. I think it was like it was an impulse of an Engel vintage cab. I can't remember where I got it from. Sounded great though. So it's the Dietzel VH4 into a simulated Engel vintage cab. That's pretty much it. It's just as simple as that. I use my Explorer for the whole thing, for cleans, rhythm, lead, everything. Just because the Lundgrens sound so good. I couldn't bring myself to use the EMGs anywhere.
Dang.
You know, I did A-B a while. You know, I restrung both the guitars, had them both nicely set up and everything, ready to go. And I tried even just maybe doing the left guitar with the Lundgrens and the right guitar with the EMGs, and it wasn't doing it for me, you know. So I ended up doing the whole thing with the Explorer loaded with the Lundgrens. Any effects I had on it were from the Boss GT100, which I use with the 4-cable method because it's just versatile. You know, you can for anyone who doesn't know what the 4-cable method is, you can basically choose where you want to put effects before or after the preamp inside your amp. So it's a clever system. So, for example, you know, wah-wah always sounds good before the preamp because then the preamp gets some nice distortion on it and gets that nice kind of metal wah sound that we all know and love. So yeah, Boss GT100 for effects, because for me, Boss, you can't beat them for effects. I don't use the amp sims on it at all, but I can wholeheartedly recommend it for a multi-effects unit. There are a couple of presets I used for the acoustic stuff, which I used from Toontrack Easy Mix 2, which I use straight inside my DAW, which is Reaper, purely because they just sounded so much better than any tone I could get from the GT100. You know, I didn't really know what I was doing with the acoustic thing, so to have a really cool preset was just perfect. You know, just the right amounts of compression, the right amounts of, you know, delay and some reverb in there. I believe the preset I used, it might have been the Devin Townsend acoustic preset in Easy Mix 2, for anyone that's got Easy Mix 2. And yeah, the rest was just my rig. I did the vocals with a Shure 757, which I've since sold because I just didn't like it very much. Had this harsh high end, weird kind of mid-range. Just didn't like it. Didn't like it on guitars, didn't like it on vocals. Just wasn't my thing, not what I'm looking for. So I replaced it with this Audio-Technica ATM 650, which is, to my ears, the far superior microphone. It's basically their SM57 equivalent, but slightly kind of retuned, revoiced slightly. You know, they have a few different frequency responses here and there. That was practically it. Yeah, drums were done with Tune Track Easy Drummer 2. Programming Midi takes a lot of time. That was kind of the part of the process that actually took the longest time, because I was doing that for months. Because I'd recorded the scratched guitar tracks of every song that I had completed. You know, so I had the framework of each song, and I thought, okay, whilst I can't record, you know, because I'd set aside like 2 or 3 days for doing guitars and reamping them and everything. So before that, I wanted to get the good foundation down of the drums. You know, spent months on and off just going in, programming the drums, tweaking them, making them sound as natural as possible. Because one big vibe I wanted to get across on this album is an organic sound. I didn't want it to sound super digital. I mean, I love kind of epic fantasy and fairy tale kind of woodland stuff and kind of heroic spirit. It just lends itself so well with like an organic sound. So I wanted to make sure, because I couldn't record live drums, I wanted to make sure they sounded as live as possible. I got as close as I could, given what I had. Next time, I'll definitely like to do better. I'm going to upgrade to Superior Drummer 3 for my next album. And they've just released this this SDX pack, which is like an add-on pack done by Bob Rock. And they have this drum preset, which is based on the Black Album drum preset. So, and it sounds so close, man. It's called the LA 1991 preset, and it sounds so close to the Black Album drum sound. So I think going into the next album, that's going to be my foundation for the drums, and I'll tweak it from there.
What made you get on social media and Instagram and all this stuff and start, you know, putting your guitar work out to the world?
Well, I was never a social media kind of guy. And then I saw James Hetfield had got an Instagram. So I was like, okay, I need to get an Instagram. You know, it was the only thing he had. It was kind of, you know, I just thought it was super cool that someone of that level, like one of my idols, you know, was using this thing. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get that just to follow him, you know, just to see what he's posting. Got bitten by the Instagram bug, started posting stuff myself with no direction really back then. I was just posting up snapshots and what I was doing and, you know, just regular day-to-day stuff. It hadn't even occurred to me to use it as a promotional tool up until very recently. Back then I was just using it as just fun, keeping up with, you know, some artists that I like, you know, a few friends. And then I started thinking, well, you know, playing guitar and music is my life. I should kind of show it off a bit more on here, you know. I guess I was just never into the oversharing thing. You know, social media, it's always like, you know, you got to put so much out. I was just never into that. I'm quite a private person behind the kind of music thing. So it took me a while to kind of get into the mindset where I was like, okay, I'm just going to put myself out there on this platform. You know, I've got a couple of nice guitars. I have a nice amp. You know, I love playing. You know, I love riffing out. Why not share it with Instagram? Came across a bunch of guys that were kind of doing a similar thing. So I just thought, yeah, I'll you know, throw my hat in as well. Just do my own thing. Try and retain my own kind of flavor with it. I actually don't like playing covers too much. I mean, I know a lot of guys, they kind of solely play covers. I've always been more into just writing and jamming. I don't think I've ever sat down and learned how to play an entire song front to back. It's just riffs here and there. And that's how I taught myself to play, was just playing along to like riffs on Metallica albums. You know, I'd hear a riff and think, oh, it's a cool riff. I'm going to play along with that and see if I can figure it out by ear. You know, I never kind of wanted to play covers. So I think that's probably what sets me apart from a lot of the other guys. You know, they play these amazing covers, super accurate. You know, they have, you know, like they nail the Metallica tones and everything, whereas I'm more kind of putting my more of my vibe on these riffs that I'm playing. You know, I've got slightly different tone, slightly different way of playing. That's what got me started. It was Metallica. It was James Hetfield.
Now, I might be wrong about this, but when I'm thinking about your page, I'm not remembering a lot of videos of you playing your own music on there. Do you put videos of you jamming your riffs on there?
There are a couple, but the reason for that is I'm working on kind of putting out full song playthroughs. I think you actually left a comment on one of my videos a while back, saying, you know, do some guitar playthroughs of these, man. So yeah, in the meantime, I'm kind of doing the cover riffs, you know, just my favorite riffs that I love playing. And behind the scenes, I'm working on doing these kind of full song playthroughs of my own things, which I'll kind of splice up and put onto Instagram.
Man, full song covers are so much more work. When I was doing Master of Puppets month, I committed to covering full covers of every one of those songs. And not only learning them is hard because I'm trying to do one take through the whole song, and then sometimes on the rhythms, I'll cut it during the guitar solo. So if I mess up after the guitar solo, I'll keep the first half, or vice versa, I'll keep the second half. But it is so much more work, and editing it is so much more work, having to, you know, it is... For YouTube, like, it's worth it, I guess. But man, it's now when I go and sit down and I'm like, okay, I got to do a couple Instagram videos. I'll record like 2 or 3 in a row, and it is like a piece of cake recording a minute after doing all these Master of Puppets songs, man. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. You did a great job on those, by the way. So bravo, my man. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of work. You know, I'm such a perfectionist in what I do. But it's representing my own stuff. When I'm playing other people's riffs, I just jam it out. You know, if it's a bit loose, I don't care. It's just fun. But when it's my own stuff, I need to represent myself in the best way possible. I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to my own stuff. So, like you said, if there's just the slightest mistake, I'll go, I have to start this over again. I've got to do that. And, you know, and especially when you have the layering thing going on, you're doing like 3-part harmonies, you've got acoustic breaks, all this stuff. It's a lot of work, man. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on behind the scenes at the moment. They will be on Instagram at some point in kind of spliced up 1-minute videos. But yeah, it's just my perfectionism is taking a lot of time.
Yeah, well, there's actually I'm the same exact way too, and it's almost it's not good because I spend so much time trying to get it perfect that I end up not putting out some stuff because I never get it perfect, and then I got new projects and I move on, and then I look back and I find these videos that are 3/4 of the way done that I'll just jam them out. I'll be like, whatever, I got to finish it up, and I'll finish it and just put it out, and it's good enough. Like there's a saying that perfection is the opposite or is the enemy of completed or something like that. I forget something like that though.
Yeah, well, there's the other thing where it's art is never done, only abandoned. And I'm exactly the same. I've done the exact same thing. I've got, you know, 3/4 of the way through a song and just thought, this is crap. I can do so much better than this. And because it's your own thing, you want it to be as, you know, this masterpiece. People don't care. I mean, you know, you could put out something super loose and just, yeah, it might slip out of tempo here and there. You might hit a bum note every once in a while. Most people wouldn't care. They just want to see some good guitar playing, hear some good riffs. But it's the perfectionist side which says, no, you can't put that out. You need to do that again. You know, do it over and over until it's note perfect. It's basically like tracking the entire song again, you know. I've already kind of gone through that during the recording process, the perfectionism thing, getting the rhythms super tight. Because on my album, I'm triple tracking. So yeah, you can imagine on the faster stuff like Death to Degeneracy and Fearless. That was just, you know, that was frustrating because it was, you know, you get one little note out, and I'm not into the whole cutting and moving notes and quantizing and all that. As I said, being organic is a very big thing for me with my music. I like everything to be as natural as possible. So I try and just nail takes. And so, I'd get to the end of a riff, mess it up, and I'd sort of, think, oh, I really should go back and do that whole riff again. Otherwise, you're going to have that cut towards the end, and people won't even notice it, but I would know. So, long, old process. So, eventually we'll have these nice full covers of full versions, full playthroughs of my original stuff up on Instagram.
All right. Well, can't wait to see some of that stuff.
Thanks, man.
If anybody out there is starting out on Instagram and they want to do a guitar page or put out an album like you, what's some of your biggest tip to somebody just starting out?
Be yourself. I know that's so cliched, but I see a lot of people trying to do what someone else is doing, and they can never do it as well because they're not that person. That person is doing what they're doing as well as they're doing it because they're being themselves, right? Know your own personality, know what you like. If you're not a funny guy, don't try and have kind of comedy in your videos. If you're not a shredder, don't kind of feel like you need to shred. Just do the kind of playing you want to do, the kind of videos you want to put out. I mean, I personally don't like playing videos with backing tracks. A lot of the guys out there, they do it with backing tracks and it sounds great for them and that's what they like to do. I gave it a go once and it just annoyed me. I don't know why. I like capturing a moment in my videos. I like just riffing out, the camera's on, oh, that riff sounded cool, I'll put that up. I don't want to kind of feel like, oh, I need to play exactly in time and in tune with the recording. I just want to do my thing. So yeah, be yourself, do stuff you want to do and that you would be proud of. It's my number one tip.
I like it. What are your the favorite couple concerts you've attended?
Well, the first one is the Download Festival 2004, because that is just one of those once-in-a-lifetime things that will never happen again. Very fortunate to have seen that. Another one that comes to mind is the very first time I saw the aforementioned Zelda Symphony, because I'd never seen orchestral music performed live, and the Legend of Zelda music was the very first music that I liked in my entire life. Even before I heard Metallica and all this kind of stuff, I was playing Nintendo games. I was playing The Legend of Zelda. That music was the music I liked. So hearing that played by this magnificent 100-piece orchestra, in a giant auditorium, just feeling the music, just hearing how truly beautiful and epic that music is. It changed the way I look at music. That's what made me get into playing, doing the synth stuff and playing the keyboard and doing the orchestral stuff with my own compositions. I was like, this is too powerful to me not to give back in some way. It's like with playing the guitar. We all pick up a guitar because we want to riff like our favorite guitarist, right? And then, the orchestra thing, it was the same thing with me. Obviously, I'm not about to learn how to play every instrument in a full orchestra. So the next best thing I can do is, get some software, get a MIDI keyboard, and do that. So that was the one of the most important concerts of my life. That
I got to stop you now because I'm a huge Zelda fan. I grew up with Nintendo as well, and the original Zelda 1 for original Nintendo with if you had the limited edition gold cartridge even. Yeah. That's maybe still my favorite game of all time. I'll put it in once in a while. I have a Nintendo Wii, so I got all the old NES games on there.
I'll download it, yeah.
Yeah, and I it's so nice with the wireless controller too, but I'll put it up on like a Saturday morning and just take the whole day off, do nothing. Like at least once a year I'll do this. And I'll play Zelda for like 7-8 hours straight. I'll beat the whole game for the the first world,
Yeah.
But I love that game.
Oh man, they're timeless. I mean, like you said, you can go back and play those games, with their 8-bit graphics and the 8-bit sound, and it's still, you go on an adventure with it. it's still tough. You're still learning after decades. Every time you put it on, every time you put it on, it draws you right back into the adventure. With every new Zelda game, I get that same feeling like I'm a kid again. Like I'm going out on this epic quest.
What's your top Zelda game?
That is a very tough question. I'm inclined to say Ocarina of Time.
Oh, so good.
Because that is, it is so good. I can't fault it, My second favorite, by a very close margin, is Majora's Mask, which was the direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Very different Zelda game. You've got the time limit. It's super dark and twisted. It's a little less traditional fantasy and a little more kind of not horror inspired, but just darker themed. That's my second. Third favorite, probably the new one, Breath of the Wild, for the Nintendo Switch. It's incredible. It recaptures that spirit of the original Zelda on the NES, where you just get thrown into this world and you need to figure out what to do. It's just this great adventure. Highly recommend it if you haven't played it already.
Do you have a collection of like Nintendo systems and things?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Which ones do you have?
I've got pretty much everything. The only two I don't have is I don't have a Super Nintendo because we just never had that as a kid. We had the NES and then went straight to the N64. So I don't have a Super Nintendo yet, although I've played A Link to the Past and a lot of the other kind of iconic Super Nintendo games on the Wii and the Wii U and all that. And I don't have a Game Boy Advance SP because I'm holding off because there's this really nice limited Zelda edition Game Boy Advance SP. It's gold and it has the Triforce on the top. So I'm waiting until a mint condition version comes up on eBay or something, and then I'll get that.
Dude, now that I'm looking at it, is that green, that vest you're wearing?
No, it's gray, but I do have a green one.
I was going to say, when you put the hood on, you kind of look like Link.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have. I do have a green version of exactly this hoodie, and it's my casual Link kind of vibe. If I'm going out adventuring in the forest or over the moors, I tend to put that on. Unfortunately, I don't have like a master sword or anything, but a lot of my kind of there's huge Zelda influence on the album. You can tell by the album cover, the sword in the stone, quintessential kind of not only Zelda but epic fantasy kind of thing. A lot of the music is inspired by Zelda music, not just the use of orchestra, but the phrasing, the melodies, a couple of the lyrics, directly inspired by Zelda. It's a huge inspiration on me. It's just as big an inspiration on me as Metallica is. So that's why I like to fuse the two in my original music. I love Metallica, I love metal, but I love Zelda and orchestral stuff, the epic fantasy stuff, just as much. So, my thing is kind of the meeting of the two worlds. To answer your question before, though, I do have a collection of Nintendo consoles and stuff. I do have a separate Zelda collection as well of some really cool pieces that I've collected over the years. A couple of statues and figurines and rare kind of Zelda things. Unashamed Zelda nerd.
You know what I would love to see on your page is some of your Zelda stuff. You should throw up a picture of your video game systems and.
Yeah, I've considered.
I should put mine up too. I got a whole bunch. I got Sega, Super Nintendo. I need an N64. That's one of the ones I really want.
Oh man, I'd love to see what you got. Yeah, N64 has some of the greatest games I've ever played in my life. I can't recommend that system enough. I recently got a new piece for the Zelda collection, a life-size Majora's Mask statue. That's actually on my Instagram right now because it was too cool not to put up. I try and keep it more focused on the music stuff, but that was just too cool not to post. I have a whole kind of cabinet over there with everything displayed, so I'll have to try and get a few good photos and stick them up on Instagram.
Yeah, that, and I would love to see maybe some Zelda covers, like you jamming some of the old Zelda stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today, actually. I've done a couple of Zelda covers orchestral that are I had put up on my SoundCloud. I think I took them down though after that. Don't know why. But yeah, doing some kind of, there are a lot of Zelda metal covers, so I'd like to do something different. That's what I was thinking about today, how I can, kind of have the meeting of the two worlds, the kind of heavy metal and the Zelda stuff, in a way that hasn't really been done before. A lot of guys, they just have the very generic kind of metal rhythms, and then the playing the lead melodies and all that kind of stuff. It sounds super cool, but it's been done to death, and I don't really like to retread what other people have done. I'd rather try and focus in on what I would do without that kind of outside influence, just purely what I would think to do. So yeah, they will be coming for sure.
Other than play guitar, what would you say your favorite thing to do is?
Training in the gym, for sure. I mean,
weightlifting, or do you still do martial arts?
Yeah, a bit of both. I haven't done martial arts training for about a year now, ever since moving, because we don't have space for me to set up my punch bag just yet. We have this nice back room though. It's being used as a storage room. We're basically renovating the entire house, so once that is all clear, punch bag will be set up, and I'll be doing the kickboxing training again, some of the karate stuff. So yeah, right now it's mainly just weight training, so, some circuit stuff to keep my functional fitness up. I would wholeheartedly recommend anyone to start training. It changes your life. Whether you're skinny, whether you're fat, whether you're just totally average, it will improve you, and it will make you feel better than you can possibly imagine. That's the thing you can't get across. When you see these, say, body transformations, this guy used to be super fat, this guy used to be super skinny, and now they're ripped, yeah, you can see the visual effect. You can see, wow, that guy looks really different. But I guarantee you, he feels 100 times better than he did. And that's something that you just have to experience for yourself. The rush that training gives you. Our bodies have developed to be used. So when you have this kind of modern, kind of sedentary lifestyle, a lot of sitting down, a lot of people work in offices, or they don't have very active jobs. Get your body moving. You'll feel infinitely better for it. It's what your body is made to do, and it will thank you for it.
Oh, I don't know if you know this. I kickbox too. I got a couple heavy bags in my garage and everything.
Nice.
And at one point, I used to be 220 pounds about, and I started working out. I got into UFC. I started watching UFC, started kickboxing, started running all the time, going to the gym and lifting weights, and I lost 60 pounds in 3 months.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, once you start using your body, it rewards you. It's like,
absolutely.
Yes.
And what you're saying about feeling better, it's not just like you feel sick when you're overweight, or you do a little bit, but you don't really know it. But it's more the confidence and what it does for your mentality, and gets your,
exactly.
If you're a guy, gets your testosterone up, and you get your energy, and working out will give you more energy. People don't know that sometimes even.
Exactly. You'll be, if you hit a hard session, you'll be exhausted for about an hour afterwards. Get some food in you, and you'll be more energetic than the average Joe. And and it carries over. It's not just kind of, you have a good workout and you're on a high, and then you feel kind of energetic. It just improves you as a whole. It lifts you to the higher level. The confidence boost for doing any kind of martial art as well, knowing that you can defend yourself in a situation, that's invaluable. The confidence that gives you. I mean, I was never like a fat kid. I used to be a bit chubby as a teenager, and even once I lost that, I was like a totally different person. My confidence just improved immeasurably. A lot of the clients I've trained, because I do freelance personal training as well as the music thing, I take them through kind of these basic kickboxing circuits. Once they learn how to throw a punch and, get a kind of a good kind of grasp of how to defend themselves, they're changed people. You can see it, they're more open, they're more confident, they stand taller, they're not as timid or shy. They really open up. Yeah. You know, if there's one thing I recommend absolutely anyone to do is start training in some way, lift some weights, do some martial arts, even go running, do some yoga, anything. It will improve you physically, mentally, every which way.
Dang, this is motivating. I want to go kickbox now, right now.
So do I.
But I forgot it's 90 degrees. It's not very cool in my garage right now.
I can imagine, man.
All right, well, before I let you go, we're talking Explorers. I want to show you something. Check this out. I'm excited. I just got a new guitar.
Oh, man.
So it came in yesterday. And
oh, this is it.
The Black Explorer.
Oh, look at that.
Super clean. Got the EMGs.
That is a beauty. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I actually, if people are just listening, you can go on YouTube and watch this too. But I already had a white one, the exact same guitar. And
yeah, I've seen it.
And since Injustice for All, I'm going to be doing a month for that pretty soon for August. I was thinking I'd really like a new guitar. So I was thinking, like, what would be a good one for that? And obviously, this is something I've wanted for a couple of years now. I used to have an LTD Explorer, and then I didn't play it for like a year. So I sold it, and then I miss it, man. So I had to get another one. But this is an Epiphone, but still, I love it.
Oh, I've played on those things a couple of times. They're great guitars, man. Yeah, that is a beauty. Congratulations. I can't wait to see you ripping on that thing.
Thank you. There'll definitely be some stuff up soon with it, so people will see. Actually, probably by the time this comes out, it'll be like in a week and a half, so people will probably already have seen it. But you're the first who got to take a look. I haven't posted it yet. Oh,
I'm honored. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Injustice for All month. Injustice for August, did you say is it going to be?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really looking forward to that, man. I can tell it's just going to be huge. Instagram's going to blow up again, and it will be a beautiful thing.
Well, I don't know but we're going to have to do a song together. I'll message you, and we'll figure out which one you want to do. But I'll definitely want to work with you for that.
Yeah, righteous, man.
All right, Josh. Well, is there what are some links? It's at Josh Dalviken on Instagram.
Yes, it is. And that's pretty much
Dalviken.
Yeah, and yeah, I use the same username all across my social media. If you want to find my stuff on YouTube, search the name. Bandcamp.com/Josh Dalviken. That's where you can directly buy the album digitally or as a physical CD on this beautiful digipack copy. Still have a few of them left. And yeah, anywhere else, you can find me on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, all that kind of stuff.
All right, for anyone lazy, also, I'll have all the links down on the YouTube description and over at GuitarGuts.com too, so it'll be super easy to find a list of everything.
I appreciate your support, my man.
Yeah, Josh, dude, thanks so much. The White Wolf.
The pleasure has been all mine.
Cool. Talk to you soon, man.
Cool, man.
Boom, that's the podcast. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Go check out Josh Dalviken, The White Wolf. The Sword in the Darkness. The Sword That Slayed the Darkness is his CD that's on Spotify, or you can go to GuitarGuts.com. I'll have all his links there. You can find the album there. Buy a copy. Thanks again to Iron Age Guitar Accessories. Go check them out. I got the banner, GuitarGuts.com. Right at the top there for Iron Age Accessories. Enter the code GG-10, and you get 10% off if you want a radical kill switch like this. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Every Wednesday, check back here. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube. And I'll see you next Wednesday.